Good morning. I'm glad you can join me for this time of devotion. I want to take advantage of this opportunity to invite you to worship with the Bearden Church of Christ. We meet at 745 Cedar Street in Bearden. If you're coming from out of town, that's Arkansas Highway 203. We meet at 10 o'clock for our Sunday morning Bible study. We have our worship services at 11 o'clock and 5 o'clock. On Wednesday nights, we meet at 6:30 for midweek Bible study, and on Thursday nights, we have an online Bible study at 7 o'clock here on Facebook. And so I invite you to join us for all that, and I hope you can soon. I'm excited to bring you today's devotion, and I hope it will be beneficial to you. Today I want us to take another look at the Beatitudes, and we'll today look at Matthew 5, verse 5. And it's there that Jesus says, "Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth." Well, we need to ask ourselves a question. Who are the meek? And we can start by identifying who the meek is not. We need to understand that the word meek does not mean weak. The word in the Greek originally meant gentle, mild, or kind, and it referred to an outward and observed attitude. It was the opposite of wrath and anger. The commentator Albert Barnes says this of meekness. He says, "Meekness is patience in the reception of injuries. It is neither meanness nor surrender of our rights nor cowardice, but it is the opposite of sudden anger, of malice, of long-harbored vengeance." Those who are meek are gentle, they're kind, humble, they're composed, and they're slow to anger. And we have some examples of such people in the Bible that we can learn from. Abraham displayed meekness when he allowed Lot to choose the hard lands. Remember when Lot and Abraham decided that they had to split because their herds had grown so large they could no longer be together. Abraham let Lot have first choice as to which way he wanted to go. Moses was referred to as the meekest man on earth. Paul was meek with those that he worked with, and Jesus was really and truly the living, walking definition of meek. And the Bible gives us some characteristics of the meek that we find, especially in the Psalms. In Psalm 76, verse 9, we see that the meek will be saved from judgment. Psalm 147, verse 6 tells us that the meek will be exalted by God. Psalm 25, verse 9 says God will guide and teach the meek. Psalm 149, verse 4 says that God beautifies them with salvation. We read that they rejoice in God and in His Holy One in Isaiah 29, verse 19. And then in Luke 6, verse 29, we read that the meek is the one who can turn the other cheek. But our verse in Matthew 5, verse 5 tells us that the meek shall inherit the earth. Well, we go to Psalm 37, verse 11 for that. It says, "But the meek shall inherit the land and shall delight themselves in the abundance of peace." See, meekness is important because we're required to be meek to have a proper relationship with the Lord. Because the definition of meekness is simply this. It is our thoughts, our emotions, and our strength under God's control. An example I can think of as meekness is the wind. The wind can be a destructive force, but put a sail on a ship, and then all of a sudden the wind becomes an aid to the ship being able to sail the seas. Think of a horse. A horse can be destructive if untamed, but then once the horse is tamed and is able to accept the bridle, then the horse can do work for man. It doesn't lose its strength at all, but the strength is under control, much with the wind and the sail. It's that the power of that wind is now harnessed. It's put under control. It's not any less powerful, but it's under control. And let us remember as we go through this life that part of maturing and going into maturity spiritually is to put our emotions under control. Are there things that should anger us? Yes. Are there things that we need to work toward making better? Yes, but we need to do those under control. And we find that if we maintain control, that our results are far better than if we act like a child throwing a temper tantrum. And so meekness is not, as many people think of it, as being a loss of control. It is everything under control. It's not being weak. It's being strong enough to have things under control. We think of Christ on the cross. He could have called 10,000 angels, and he could have been set free. But no, he understood what God's plan for man was, and he understood what his part of that plan was, and so he suffered for you and me. And that's the definition of what meekness is: to submit yourself to God's will and to live under God's control. Let us strive to learn meekness. It's not always easy, but it's worth it. I thank you for watching today, and I hope you'll watch again tomorrow as we have another devotional. And I hope you'll come join us for worship services at the Bearden Church of Christ. We meet at 745 Cedar Street in Bearden. If you're coming from out of town, that's Arkansas Highway 203. 10 o'clock for Sunday school. We have worship services at 11 and 5. Midweek Bible study is Wednesday nights at 6:30. And don't forget our online Bible study at 7 o'clock on Thursday nights. I hope you can be a part of all of these. Thank you for watching today. And remember, God loves you, and so do I.